ready for a heart-to-heart talk about something? I have been open to marriage since 2019. I was divorced many, many years, and I thought to myself that I do miss continuous, reliable, loyal companionship. As a coach, I am busy. My method for dealing with loneliness has been to keep busy. And I spend a lot of time alone. And I cultivated the table for one lifestyle that everyone is attaching themselves to. People love the concept of the table for one lifestyle. So just work with me for a second. This is not scripted. I don't have an outline. I've been open to marriage since 2019. This is my own personal journey that I'm sharing with you. Since 2019, I dialed in my health. I dialed in my income. I dialed in my attitude. I worked with coaches myself. Even as a coach, first of all, if you have a coach who doesn't have a coach, if you have a therapist who's not seeing a therapist, then you need to find a new coach, new therapist. That's the reality. I have two coaches. I have a personal coach that helps me with personal issues, and I have a business coach mastermind group that I bounce things off of. Why? Because I have blind spots. There's things that I can't see that other people can see. That's the value that's added. So because of that, everything in my life has improved. Everything. Like 100% of the things in my life have improved. My income, my relationships, my role as a citizen, as an employee, as a friend, as a boyfriend in the past, as a father, as a son, as a brother. Everything has 100% improved. Better late than never, okay? But what I don't want to do is just date someone forever. And I hate what's happening around marriage. People say, well, I'm not getting married unless the laws change. Guess what, dude? Laws ain't changing. They're not lightening up. They're only getting tighter. And they're only going to be more against you. They're never going to be in your favor as a father or as a husband. So here I am, 6 years, almost 6 years into wanting to be married again, or being open to marriage. Not like there's no desperation, but I'm open to it. And I know what I can provide. I know what I can accomplish. Worked on so many things. I've channeled the anger. I've used the anger. And it has worked. It has worked. I'm a better man. I'm good at being a man now. And I help men in my coaching to be better men. But marriage, the way we do it, isn't working. It's not working. You go on a date and it's like a job interview. A woman is checking out what you drive, the kind of watch you wear. She's looking at you. She's assessing your lifestyle, because women marry a lifestyle, not the man. The man comes second. The lifestyle comes first. And as you get older, that's more true. It's an absolute fact. And I'm not going to get divorced again. That will never happen. That will never happen. So I am on this like weird quest to reinvent marriage. What are the elements of a reinvented marriage? And I'm not talking about just like having sex with somebody, having a friend with benefits. I just don't want to do that. I don't want to spin plates. I'm not interested in that. As the sex drive has gone down a little bit, like I'm not really thinking about scoring or intimacy, that kind of thing. I would rather have a civil, friendly, fun cup of coffee with a woman with no strings attached, no promises, nobody trying to impress anybody. And if it leads to something, fantastic. But what that leads to is going to be traditional marriage. What are the elements? If we could reinvent marriage, what elements would be there? Number one, and this is stream of consciousness. Number one, I'm not going to the courthouse. I'm not going to get the state involved. I don't need permission from the Commonwealth, from the state to get married. I don't need a permit, so to speak. I mean, it's easy. Think about this. It's easier to get married than it is to get a driver's license. I can get any kind of license that takes effort. Most licenses take effort. Marriage doesn't take any effort, but I don't want to say why do we allow people to get married who are not ready to get married? But you can't control anybody except yourself. So those who run headfirst into a burning house, my sympathies to you, my sympathies. Now, once you've established yourself as a high-value man, You've got your emotions in check. You got your body in check. You got your earning in check, but you're always improving. But yet things don't happen. And you say, what the hell is up? You go out with a woman once, you schedule another date, and then she flakes on you, which means that she got a better offer. It's got, don't take it personal. That's the first thing that you have to do is don't take it personal because everybody's looking for the highest bidder. Dating is basically eBay. That's what it is. People just bidding higher and higher and higher. How can we reinvent marriage? I jokingly say, I can't wait to make dinner with my wife. I will grill the steak while she's making the potato salad and, making the salad. I'll take care of the meat and the grill and all that stuff. And we cooperate together. We sit down. We might clink a wine glass or a glass of seltzer and lime, since I don't drink anymore, and kind of just celebrate our union. And then throw a log on the fire. There's a big fluffy rug in front of the fireplace. And we make love in front of the fireplace. And kind of like doze off in each other's arms. Sounds beautiful, right? And then when I wake up, I kiss her and say, text me if you need anything. And I go back to my house. Women have loved that. Men, especially Christian men, are just like, what the hell are you talking about, dude? The Christian idealist will tell you that, what you need, like, follow the Bible and you won't get divorced. Christian divorces, being a Christian does not affect the divorce rate. Hate to break it to you, fellas. It doesn't affect the divorce rate. Christian people get divorced the same way for the same stupid reasons. Across the board, we have to look at male and female nature, not what idealism says. Sure. One guy always says, just marry a woman that doesn't believe in divorce. Show me one woman that got married thinking, if this doesn't work out, we'll just get divorced. Doesn't happen. It'll never happen that way. How can we reinvent marriage? Is it possible to have two households, two homesteads, get together a couple times a month and love each other? Not unlike the airline pilot, not the airline pilot, not unlike the grown man who was a client of mine who became a flight attendant. He's in the air 4 days a week. He did this like later in life, became a transatlantic flight attendant, where he was gone from the house 4 days a week. Now, assuming there's no infidelity, and that's taking a leap, because 85% of people cheat somehow, some way, either with their phone, talking to somebody. Almost every woman I've ever dated ended up cheating somehow, some way. That's why I say a woman's phone tells the truth when she doesn't. 85% of people cheat. Did I cheat when I was younger? Yeah, I always had a couple, 2 or 3 women going at all times. It didn't matter. I grew out of that because there was no payoff. There was no reward. There was no return on investment. On the fun investment, there's no return on it. It's confusing. You end up making excuses. And sure, you could have a polyamorous thing. Sure, you can have an ethical non-monogamy kind of thing where you're doing your thing and she's doing her thing, but you still come together. I do not want to be planting seeds in a field that another farmer is plowing. I'm pretty territorial when it comes to my fields and planting seeds. Now, am I going to have kids at my age? Probably not. If I met a woman who was still of childbearing years, sure, I would love to crank out a couple more kids. I think I was born to be a father and born to be a husband. That's how I feel. Is it in the cards for me? Probably not. So I had to deal with that in a way that was like doing grief work, that kind of thing, because most of our lives don't turn out the way that we want. So let's get back to reinventing marriage. Is it possible to have 2 separate households? Have his money, her money, and then our money? Is that a possibility? To build something together. If you're an adult and you have a career, and she's an adult and she has a career, does she have to drop everything and make you dinner every night? No. If you're a grown man, you know how to cook for yourself. You know how to clean. You don't need a mama. You don't need a maid. You don't need a housekeeper. If you have your own shit together and you're dialed in, then, you don't need a woman to do that. I guess in yesteryear, maybe that was a possibility. Maybe that was desirable. My mother was a full-time mother until we were old enough to get the house key. As like young teenagers, 12, 13 years old, there was a little nail, with the house key on it, and you take in a hidden place and you'd find it, unlock it. You went out at night, you come back and the parents were sleeping, and you let yourself in, that kind of thing. But I had a mom that gave us the key to the house when we were 12 or 13. She no longer needed to actively mother us as children. I come from a family of 3 boys. Some of you know my brothers. And what's interesting is my mother went to work. She cut hair for a living, and then she stopped doing that. Both my parents cut hair. They both had a trade and a profession, which is something that I just constantly pound on. And my mother worked for a retail organization and brought money in. My dad was the quote-unquote main breadwinner, and being that mom worked part-time, she did work a lot of hours, though, for part-time, or at least it was available to her. So she contributed to the household financially. When she stopped contributing mother-wise, maternally, she started contributing financially to the house. And I know mortgages were cheaper, life was cheaper. We had 1 car growing up, and on food shopping day, my mother would give my dad a ride to his work. He worked at General Electric, and then she would run errands, go to the meat market. Back then, you'd get your groceries, your non-meat groceries at a grocery store, supermarket, and then you went to a meat market and got the meat. So that's what we did. And when I talk to men about their wives, I used to ask, does your wife work? And then I smartened up and I saw the reality of things, and my question changed. Does your wife work outside the home? Because working in the home is valuable. That's working. And if you don't believe it, try taking care of kids that are sick, maintaining a clean house, having dinner ready for your husband. It's a job. It really is. It's a grind, and it's contributing to the household in a maternal way. When you no longer have to do it maternally, a woman may go to work. Some women put their kids in daycare. That's a family choice. That's a choice of the couples, that kind of thing. But my mom and dad's marriage is different. My grandparents even had something even more different. My grandparents had an arranged marriage. Can you imagine your mother and father choosing a woman for you, and then you stay with that woman for the rest of your life? Their choice of woman for you, not your choice. And you get to the point where you're like, I don't even trust my own choices anymore. We don't have arranged marriages in Western culture anymore. When my grandfather died, my grandmother remained single and married to him until the day she died. I know widows that will still wear their wedding band and consider themselves married even after their spouse dies. And nobody's jumping in that bed with them. And for them, it works. And I think it's just a matter of conviction. I don't condemn anyone who does remarry. I don't condemn that at all. I think it's preferable. That's just my opinion. Otherwise, the maxim becomes true that she's not yours, it's just your turn. I don't want to do... Every woman that I've ever had in my lifetime, between a wife and girlfriends, they were never mine, it was just my turn. How do we avoid just having a turn? It's your turn up at bat for a woman. How do you avoid that? Is there a way to avoid it? How do we reinvent marriage? Can a marriage work? And I'm not talking about going to the courthouse and getting a marriage license. I have no problem being married in the eyes of God with an officiant or with a pastor. I have no problem with that. Many won't marry you without a marriage license. You need to find a new pastor, as far as I'm concerned. Most pastors, priests are out of touch with reality. And they don't want to be counselors. They're trained to be theologians and caretakers on a light level, but they're not equipped to deal with the grief that a man goes through at all. As a matter of fact, for most of them, they blame the man for the breakup of marriages. Even if the woman cheats, it comes down to, well, you must have done something wrong. So I had to kind of back away from that model of marriage. How do we reinvent marriage? What are the elements? I'm going to ask you to put it down below. What I don't want you to do is say the biggest cause of divorce is marriage, or I'll never get married, or until the laws change. I'm not talking to you guys, okay? I have a different view of life. I've been open to marriage since 2019, and every woman that I've dated ended up cheating somehow, some way, looking for something bigger and better. Hypergamy took over. Now, was I a high value man? Did I rate high in the sexual marketplace? I don't know. I have no idea. How do you objectively measure that? It's difficult. I will say this, that women with options is always going to be a threat to a good man. I find that women cheat regularly. Married women cheat regularly. And as a guy that used to travel for a living, that's why I used to say hotel bars are a great place to find a woman. Not a girlfriend, not a committed relationship. But if you sit at a hotel bar where there's a lot of business people, you will meet a married woman who will have sex with you. And it'll be your little secret. And she might say, well, I'm here once a month, visiting my accounts and such. And, so, hey, maybe same time next month. I don't want to get there. I don't want to get to that point. How hard do you have to, how hardened and numb and calloused do you have to make yourself to get to that point where, as a man, that married women are an option? That's rough. And I think a lot of guys are doing it and have done it. I get it. But let's not talk about that. How do we reinvent marriage? What I have done doesn't work. I help men recover from grief and loss, either through divorce, breakups, or being widowed. That's my wheelhouse. That's what I do best. That's what my channel is dedicated to. That's 100% of what my coaching is about. And also, too, how to leave a woman, quietly plan and swiftly execute without inflicting a lot of collateral damage. How do we reinvent marriage? Is it signing a prenup? Because we're not asking for much. You get to the point where you don't want the beauty anymore. You don't want the Barbie doll. You want someone who's beautiful to you. And I have found, like, for instance, when I have dated women who aren't beauty queens and not, I don't want to say impressing, because a lot of times, you know how, like, guys will go on TRT only to hear another guy say, wow, sun's out, guns out. Man, you're looking jacked. And they do it for the approval of others. Men pick women based upon what other people will think many times. Wow, she's hot. Man, your wife is beautiful. Was it Mark Twain that said, or maybe W.C. Fields, with the unique sense of humor, that said, I can live 2 months on a compliment. Well, a man can live a couple months on sun's out, guns out, hearing another guy say, wow, you're jacked. Or, wow, you're 64? Holy cow, man, dude, you're in great shape for your age. And that's fuel in our tank. Having a beautiful woman on your arm when you go to an event is an ego trip. It's an ego boost. It really is. We want other people to look at our woman. The Eric Clapton song. I love the song Wonderful Tonight by Eric Clapton. It's such a beautiful song. And it's so tender. Just look up the song Wonderful Tonight. Look at the lyrics. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. How do we reinvent marriage? And have we been doing it all wrong? I want this video to be an open forum. No negativity, no cynicism. How do we reinvent marriage to the point where both people are happy? Now, happiness is not the goal of marriage. The goal of marriage is this. Marriage should bring you closer to Christ. Marriage is one of the only tools. It's kind of like marriage is the gym. Think about this. Marriage is the gym for holiness and sanctification. Because you can't just be yourself all the time. You have other people to consider. And if it's just you and her, you have to consider her. I didn't say be a nice guy. I said you have to be considerate. Be a considerate guy, not a nice guy. How do we reinvent marriage that will last forever? And as you get older, if you've ever been dating someone or you're married and they get sick. Like for me, it gives me great joy to help someone. Whenever she got sick, I'm making the chicken soup. I'm putting the cool washcloth on her head. Pulling the shades in the bedroom to make it dark and quiet. I'm not playing a loud TV or radio. I'm bringing her cool water. I'm checking in every couple hours. Can I get you anything? That comes out of me naturally as a nurturer, as a caretaker. But that was never enough to keep a woman. Now, you have to deal with your own demons. If you're a guy that has an anger problem, I call it an anger gift. If you use your anger to solve problems in the household, it all depends how that anger is fleshed out, how it's expressed. I've always said, if you're frustrated, walk. If you're angry, lift. I'll ask the question again. How do we reinvent marriage? What are the requirements? I say the number one requirement is you have to think with this head right here. Do not use sex as a determiner of who you should marry. Oh, we had great sex. I will say this, the best sex I've ever had in my life was with a woman who I wasn't married to, who didn't want to be married, didn't want to have children, and was kind of afraid of that kind of commitment. A few months earlier, she said, you're the kind of guy that I could marry. And if I was going to get married, you'd be the guy that I would marry. Like that kind of stuff. And then 2 months later, I don't want to be married. So never believe anything a woman says, believe everything she does. How do we reinvent marriage? I think the number one thing as a man, we want loyalty. I want to know that my wife is not talking to other men. Right now, if your wife works outside the home, sir, or your girlfriend out at work, there's men at her job that want to fuck her and are constantly doing a slow burn because on a day that you might be angry and you both leave the house frustrated or mad or something or dissatisfied with the relationship or the marriage, the first guy that comes along with a compliment, it's going to end up being his turn. How do we eliminate the it's your turn element in marriage? We want loyalty. Now, every woman says that she will be loyal. On the dating websites, all the women say, I'm strong, independent, sassy, sarcastic. I'm fiercely loyal. Basically, it's until I'm not. It's I love you until I'm not in love with you. Or I love you for now. So I've learned to not trust a single fucking thing a woman says. Some women say all men suck. All men are like this. Some guys say all women are like that. I'd rather not use the word all, but I'll say the word most. Most men are like that. Most women are like that. Most, not all. How do we reinvent marriage? Number one thing has to be loyalty. If you live in separate households, maintain separate households, there's always the temptation to want to combine households because you're paying for 2 cable bills, 2 electric bills, 2 water bills, 2 rents, 2 mortgages, whatever. And you start thinking, God, if we just combined our households, it would be cheaper, it would be easier. But the reality is, you can get sick of one another. I see a lot of old guys that'll say, if you could give young men advice, if you can give a young man advice, what would it be? I see a lot of old guys saying, don't get married. Don't get married. Or if you ask an old guy, older than me, I'm talking about, what advice would you give about marriage? Don't do it. Many of them say that. The phrase, when 2 people are fighting or arguing, someone will say, oh, you're bickering like an old couple. I don't want to fucking bicker. I'm so over bickering. I'm done. I'm done with it. How do we reinvent marriage? Number one, we have to be loyal. You look for someone who's loyal, and that starts with you being loyal. You have to be what you expect in someone else. Number 2, you have to be pleasant. The likability factor. You want to be bitchy to people in the workplace. You want to drive a hard bargain somewhere. Do it at work. Do it in your business dealings. But you don't drive hard bargains with a woman that you're married to or in a long-term relationship with. I am personally sick and tired of having my turn with women. I'm just so fucking sick and tired of it. It's hard to enter any kind of relationship thinking that it's permanent because you're always walking on eggshells thinking what if I get laid off? What if one of my streams of income disappears? What if something happens? What if I get sick on a long-term basis? What if I'm in bed for a month or two, with an illness or something? Is she going to bail on me? Is she going to get her sexual needs met somewhere else? Like one guy said to me, my wife and I haven't had sex in five. No, my wife and I haven't had sex. No, I haven't had sex in 5 years with my wife. And my response to him was, that doesn't mean that she hasn't had sex in 5 years. And the look on his face, it's like he saw a ghost. I don't want to be there. One of the worst feelings in the world is knowing that your woman has gotten plowed or she's sucking face with another guy. Think about this. When a man is caught cheating, when a woman is caught cheating by a man, the man will ask, and you've heard this before, did you come? How many times did you do it? Did he hit it from behind? Did you suck his dick? Did you swallow? Like that kind of stuff. A man will ask those kind of questions. When a man is caught cheating, or it's revealed that he's cheating, the woman will say, do you love her? We are two completely different creations. Men and women are different. How do we reinvent marriage? Loyalty, number one. Pleasantness. You got to be pleasant somehow. If you're a bitch of a guy and a complainer and kind of have a cynical, negative attitude, that's not going to work, not only in marriage or relationships, but even in friendships. It's not going to work. Learn to eliminate and despise time wasters in your life. So loyalty, pleasantness. Loyalty, under that comes commitment. Identify what your red flags are. Most people's relationship problems will, listen to this, most people's relationship problems stem back to them ignoring red flags. Now, are you going to find a perfect person? What if you say, I don't want tattoos on a woman? Okay. But you met a woman and she's nice to you. She's kind. She seems like she might be able to commit. All of a sudden, the tattoos don't mean a thing. I don't want to marry a fat woman. I don't want to marry this woman. I don't want to marry this, or whatever your list is. Identify your red flags. What are the deal breakers, the non-negotiables? And you have to have those for yourself. She's probably got some that she'll list as well. And that's a conversation that you have to have that no one has until they're living under the same roof. And then if you connect your relationship or your marriage somehow to having a roof over your head, this is what happens. If the relationship or marriage ends, then so does your dwelling, so does your roof. Then you have to move. There's nothing worse than breaking up and then having to move. That really sucks. So if both people are going to contribute to the mortgage or the rent, man, you better get along. Because if you don't, then guess what? You're going to be paying for the mortgage on your own, paying for the rent on your own. She's going to move out. It's going to disrupt your life. Do you move to where she is? Does she move to where you are? Do you work on a household together? Whose name is on the deed? Whoever's name is on the title, the lease, the deed, really runs the show. So should there be a joint effort for a dwelling, or should you just have your own lease and deed? And if things don't work out, then she can pack her shit. I've only told one woman in my life, pack your shit. One, and I regret that. My God, that was a hard thing to do. And I hated the aftermath. I hated the fallout of me saying impulsively, well, then pack your shit. Because that was someone who I feel like that is one of the regrets in my lifetime is someone who I lost because of that. That if I was a little more patient, if I was a little more understanding, if I wasn't as impulsive, if I didn't react emotionally, I should have acted rationally and intellectually and realized, hey, you know what? Everyone's got a bad day. Everybody's entitled to a bad day or two, but that doesn't mean the marriage or relationship has to end. That might just mean you take time apart. Back to the client who is the flight attendant. He's in the air 4 days a week and with his wife 3 days a week. They don't cheat on one another. Not that they both have said they will remain loyal to one another. I said, and he became a flight attendant after being married for years. And I said, what did that do to your marriage? And he said, it's the best thing that ever happened to it, because we're not like breathing down each other's backs. He says, by the third day up in the air, he did transatlantic flights. He says, I wanted to see my wife. I missed her. And when we got together at the end of the fourth day, we made love like we were newlyweds. and we did stuff together. We cooked, we enjoyed each other. So there is one possible option is that you have spaces, like Khalil Gibran says in his book, The Prophet. Let there be spaces in your togetherness. I call it relationship fasting. You know how like you fast, you do like a 16-8 fast where you only eat during a certain window of time? Is there a marital lifestyle where you only see each other for a finite period of time and then you're off doing your own thing? One of the problems is that men, when we commit, we allow our energy and motivation to be external. Are encouraged, like the W.C. Fields, Mark Twain thing. I could live 2 months on a compliment, that kind of thing. We love being married. Men love being married. And we are mate guarders. We don't want other farmers planting seeds or plowing a field that we own. And when I say own, you don't own your wife. You understand what I'm saying. Someone that's considered yours, your woman. You don't want your woman being with someone else. And she doesn't want you being with anyone else. And there are people who enter into these ethical, non-monogamy kind of relationships. And guess what? You're still falling into the she's not yours, it's just your turn. How do we reinvent marriage to work? Where do you start? Give me your answer. Use rational thinking. Do not be emotional. And what I want you to do is put it down below. Let this be a forum where we discuss this. The comment section is going to be super powerful. Do me a favor. Think about this. Do not give cynical answers. Do not. First and last warning. I won't say it again. Do not give cynical answers. And I know there's a lot of like MGTOW and those kind of guys here. That's fine. I don't care. I am kind of a MGTOW guy. I went my own way, and I've enjoyed it. But can you be a married MGTOW? Can you kind of go your own way, be a little bit scarce, be a little bit indifferent, create a little dread? In other words, create value in yourself where a woman feels, think about this, where a woman feels, I don't want to lose this man. Vice versa. You might want to say, I like this woman, you might be thinking, and I don't want to lose her. She's, I've lost relationships in the past because of things I said and did, but I want to stop that. I want to relearn. Be an old dog that, they say an old dog can't learn new tricks. I think it is possible to learn some new tricks if you look at it from a stoic, non-emotional point of view. I think that's very possible. Let the comment section be a forum right now. So people in the future, when they watch this video, they can look at the comments down below and see rational answers and suggestions and possibilities. Let this kind of like be a workshop. So what I'm doing is I'm workshopping the idea of how to reinvent marriage, because traditional marriage, the reality is, let's get real, isn't working. And the answer is not just being alone for the rest of your life. The answer is not being childless for the rest of your life, especially if you're a young guy. What is the answer? How do we reinvent marriage?